Aloha. Good morning. I just thought I'd share my dreams. A little dream log. Because I usually record on a little recording device, but this is kind of cool for now, just to see what happens. I just woke up from a bunch of dreams. I remember all of them because I kept getting up. I mean, they were so intense. I'll just start. The first one was I was with so I was walking through these houses, and it felt almost like a series of homes. I was trying to get out of them. Real bushy area, kind of old. Kept going through houses. Most of them were abandoned. It was probably about maybe like 2 blocks worth of homes, but they were all overgrown and garage looking, almost kind of like workplace environments. Like people had been living there and they just weren't anymore, or weren't home, or but it was a lot of stuff there. And then so I was going in and out of these doors in a straight line, like a bunch of flats, and some doors were locked, but there was always like a way out. I could see through the windows, like the tree line or whatever of these houses in the the back of these homes, and then that kept my kind of bearings of where I was, so I wasn't lost. So I just kept my eye on that as I was going through these houses, just like paying attention to things and getting through these houses. Anyway, it took me a good while. A lot of the places, it was kind of some of them were a little bit scary in a sense that didn't know who was gonna be in the next room or whatever, and just like walking through people's houses. It's pretty like up and down emotionally. I never knew what was gonna happen. Anyway, so I got to the end of these houses and I got into this really nice house that was like kind of updated and like not futuristic, but way newer than the rest of the places. When I got in that house, and I was just kind of walking around. I knew I was waiting on somebody, and I knew it was family, and I could see through the house, like my grandpa coming in, and he passed last year. He was 102. And he walked through like the door to the garage door. He walked in the house. I was like all the way 2 rooms away, but I could see through these windows or whatever. If maybe I was looking through the walls, but I could see him. He couldn't see me, and he was moving all right. Maybe like he was 80 or 85 or something like that. In the dream, and he was with my cousin, and a few other people were coming in. My aunt, a whole bunch of people were there. Like it was pretty much. It felt like 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like 4 of my aunts, my uncle. Before all that happened, he came in with my cousin and my aunt, and he he sat down, and I kind of startled him. I scared him because I wasn't supposed to be there. And I had 2 CDs. They were music CDs. I remember that. He sat down. I was going to give them to him because I made them. But I remember when he sat down on the couch, it was like 1, 2, 4 seconds. And I walked in, and he looked up and saw me. And he kind of like grabbed his chest because he had to catch his breath. My aunt had saw me. She knew that I was coming in, and I was gonna surprise him. But yeah. So anyway, he sat down. I came in, sat right next to him, and he kind of like grabbed his chest and had to like breathe and take a moment. And he was like surprised and happy, just was startled, I guess. And I put my hand on his right knee, like trying to calm him down, like it's okay, just breathe, it's alright, just breathe. And I was getting ready to start talking about the CDs, but spent most of the time I just remember spending most of the time just helping him breathe and just hanging out in that moment. And then that's when everybody else started coming in the house, and then I had to greet everybody. So I got up, and we didn't really say anything to each other. But I remember leaving the CDs like on the couch next to him and getting up and going over to my uncle, oldest uncle, on that side, and I like jumped up and gave him. He was like really tall, and I jumped up and gave him a hug, and he like picked me up like a little kid almost. But we were, like, in my head, I was grown. And he was a lot older, but he felt like a giant. He was like, "Oh, wow." It was kind of like awkward, I guess, the hug, because he's old school. Anyway, I just remember seeing everybody and just like greeting everybody individually. And all these people are still alive except my grandfather. And I remember one aunt, she like didn't want me to mess up her hair or whatever in the dream, and she was all getting ready to go on vacation. That's what she kept talking about. She's getting ready to go on vacation, and she had everything. Yeah, I was just weird. She's not like that in real life, in a sense. But it was just funny. So I just remember interacting with family in that house. And then I sat down and I was talking, kind of like on a bench table, like a picnic bench table inside the house, and I was talking with the family, and then that was it for that one, pretty much. The next one, I was walking up this hill with like it was like 4 of us, walking up, just like exploring these like area behind these houses, which was just like all brush area, kind of almost like a forest, but not really. And like a forest behind a suburban area or something out here in like the California hilly area, like the old Ohlone territory. And I remember it was weird because the whole time in that dream, I was remembering a dream that I had in there. This has never happened before. Um, but we were walking around, and I knew we were gonna come to this place that I had already dreamed about, and I didn't tell them. They didn't know, cause I didn't know. I just thought it was like something that I was remembering or whatever. Anyway, or I knew it was a dream that I had had before we had started exploring. That was the thing. So anyway, I'll explain it later what it was, but we were just walking through this kind of foresty area talking like kids. But we were grown. It was weird. We were like talking, exploring like kids, but we were probably like 22, something like that. Maybe a little younger. And we got to this area. It was kind of like an opening to a cave. Well, there was a whole bunch of other places before that we walked through that was kind of like foresty and cool. We were just chatting it up. But we got to this cave area, and I remember it specifically because this was my dream that we were getting ready to walk into, and it was 3 people in front of me, and then one person, so 3 people plus 1, and then me. That's what it was. 2 women and 2 guys, and then me. And then it was the 2 ladies in the front, and they were just like walking into, they were gonna go into this cave, and I was looking around the side. I remember I was the last one. I was looking around the side of the hill because it was like a downward sloping cave into a hill. Yeah, and I remember looking around the side like we could go around the side or possibly or whatever, just to see everything that was around, like where it ended, all this other stuff. But by this time, they had already been, 3 of them had already went in the cave, and the last guy was right in front of me. I was getting ready to tell him what my dream was, what this place was. It was this place, and he started walking in, and we started to focus on the inside of the cave because it started to get weird in there. Like, we didn't have much light. Well, we could see the end of the cave, though. That's where the light was coming from. It was, I remembered it because there was vines, big vines hanging. This type that you can like grab onto and swing. They were hanging in front in the opening of the cave, and you could like hang on to them and swing if you wanted to. But they were at the opening of the cave as you walk in, and that's what reminded me of the dream because I was in the dream within the dream. I remembered that. And as we're going through those vines, I'm remembering, how everything felt. And we get through the cave, and I could see this whole cave. It was kind of like huge. You could see how far it went, but it was kind of overgrown outside. But you could see, because it was that hill, you could see how far it went. But you could only stay on that trail because you didn't want to mess around. It was all like spider webs and stuff like that. And, yeah, it was just stuff everywhere. You had to stay on the trail. So we're going through this. Everybody's kind of like talking, but keeping quiet because we wanted to like be quiet and make sure everything was cool. We get out of the cave, and we started walking towards the back towards the street area, and or out of the brush and into the street area, and that's when I told everybody, I said, y'all not gonna believe this shit. But the dream I had last night, I'm saying this in the dream I had last night was about a cave that looked just like that, and I remembered it because it was these vines that were just like those vines, the whole thing. I was telling them I dreamed that whole thing before we went into it. And they reacted. They were like, "No, what?" Guess, yeah. Anyway, it was that whole thing. That whole like reaction period. Everybody's looking at me like, um, you know how people are when they hear you talk about dreams. It's just that's how they responded in a dream. Anyway, the next one, that was pretty much the end of that one. Their reactions and us coming out of that. Those vines. That was the main thing. Those vines in there. And yeah, that was a trip. So the next dream was that I remember. There's one in between this one, but it was connected to this one. So I think it was the beginning of, because this last dream was fairly long. So I'll start with where I remember, and then maybe the beginning will come back. But okay, yeah. So there's another group of us, and this is like at this time it was 4 of us, and these were friends that I grew up with when I was like around 12, 13, something like that. But we were grown again. This was the thing, so we were grown, and it felt like they were my friends at that time frame, but I don't remember them specifically, like by name and face and all that stuff. You just kind of like feel them. Anyway, okay, now I remember. Yeah, so actually I remember like the last dream now, but this was the one. This is that one before that. So we were walking around this kind of city area. Oh, now this is funny. We're walking around this city area, and there was this other group of kids slash adults that were real assholes. They like wanted to fight us all the time, and everywhere we went, they were there, and there was another interaction before the bar scene, but I'll go to the bar scene because I don't remember that one. What happened before that, but so we get into this bar. It's like felt like an old like Alabama bar or something, like old. I don't know, whatever it feels like when I say old Alabama bar, like from the old 60s or something. But kind of new, maybe like the 80s, yeah, 70s or 80s. And Jesus, so weird. I just remember them having a crossbow. They had a fucking crossbow. And in the beginning of the dream, I remember being real scared. We were all real scared of the crossbow. Because we were like, we were like, one of those can fucking shoot us. Like, and they were shooting it at it. They had like an endless supply of crossbows. Arrows. And they kept like using it against us, but we didn't have anything. We just like we weren't gonna run away, and all my friends were like standing behind me because I wanted to get close and take that crossbow from them, and like, oh, that's what that fight was beforehand. Yeah, so the crossbow before the bar scene fight was we were fighting outside somewhere, and they were shooting a crossbow at us from a long distance, and we kept getting closer and closer and closer. And the closer we got, the weaker the crossbow got. and it started to like have an angle like a rainbow as we got closer. And I was grabbing things to like block these crossbows, like a table or like pieces of wood and stuff. Like the table was inside the bar, but I was grabbing like pieces of wood outside before we got in there. And then when we got up close, that's when my friends started to fight too. And they uh, they got the other people around the guy who had the crossbow, and I was blocking enough of the arrows to get close to the guy with the crossbow. And when I got up close, I didn't like beat the dude up. I just took the crossbow and I threw it. I threw it in like these like bushes areas in another house. And it was like a little kid interaction, but we were grown. And I grabbed it. I grabbed the crossbow. I threw it. And I was like, stop fucking shooting us with these damn crossbows. Like that crossbow could have killed us, but we were acting like it was like nothing. It was just like a little kid fight. Anyway, so that dream that ended right there when the crossbow was gone. I guess that was the most intense part of that dream. So I didn't have anything to like keep the dream going. So we had already completed the mission of that part of the dream. But anyway, that dream extended into the bar scene. So we're in this kind of like pretty big bar. It was like open area. It was a bunch of people there, and there was music and everything. And here these assholes were again with this fucking crossbow. And they started shit again, and the whole area cleared out. And I remember this like open area in the middle of the bar just appeared, and we were on one side, and they were like by the bar, and they were drunk by this time. And this is where I started to grab the tape. They had the crossbow again, and this is where they were. That group was with. I'm remembering like the whole space of like this feels good now because I remember everything now from all that next dream because I'm at that place now. So we get to so we're just like fine, like my friends are behind me and I'm walking closer again. I grabbed like these little tables, and that's how I remember it was like kind of like the 80s because the table I grabbed was like this old ass like particle board laminate table that was kind of heavy, but in the dream it was light so I could grab it. So I picked it up and I started to block the arrows again, and the arrows were coming hard. they were they were coming at me to where the arrows were going through the table at first. And then as time went on in the dream, I didn't need that big table anymore. I put the table down. I started to grab like a little piece of wood and I can block them. But the bar was so big. And, the closer I got, these arrows did the same thing. They just started to loop, almost like drunk. Like the arrows were drunk. The arrows being shot at us were reflecting how drunk the people were. While they were talking, while they were talking. So they kept finding these arrows, and they were just shooting them. And towards the end of that, the arrows would just like fall. They wouldn't even go through the wood anymore. They would just hit the wood and fall. So even if they hit any of us, they wouldn't like do anything. And oh man, I want to remember like the details of that part of the dream, of how it transitioned to us leaving that bar, because it involved like some kind of dialogue, but I can't remember what happened. but it was the same kind of feeling as the dream before, like getting to the crossbow and like pretty much disarming them. So I don't remember what the dialogue was, but what ended up happening is we got the crossbow was like done. Like it was stupid. It just became a joke. And they were really too drunk to fight. Oh, okay, that's what the dialogue was. And they were sitting down. Now they had moved from the bar area to in the middle of the room and started sitting on the right side of the room. And we were kind of like moving towards the door. We were getting ready to leave because they were like drunk and done. But my friends wanted to fight them, and they wanted to fight too, but it wasn't like really intense because they were kind of drunk too. And I was like telecommunicating with the drunk leader who didn't have the crossbow anymore. He like kind of put it down in his lap, and he could have fired it at any time, but I remember like telling, that's why I wasn't firing, because I kept verbalizing, put that fucking crossbow down. Like, what the hell's the matter with you? Like, this is, I remember kept saying, this is indigenous land. Like, I was like, these are indigenous people. Like, and I was like yelling it, and I couldn't yell it. It was like that in between space to where you can yell, but you can't yell in the dream because you're still, you know how you how you can be in a dream and you're yelling and then you actually yell when you're awake. So I was in the dream and I was staying in the dream and I was yelling. I wanted to yell louder in the dream, but I couldn't. Because I felt my body not being able to yell as loudly as I could when I was awake. And that's when it kind of got a little unstable because I started to realize that I was even more in a dream. And I kind of pulled back, and that's when we were leaving because everything was being revealed. And I was like, this is fucking indigenous. These are indigenous people. What the fuck are you shooting people with a crossbow for in a bar? Why do you even have a crossbow? And then everything started to get like shaky, and he wasn't responding. So we got to the door and we were like talking to people, and we were getting ready to leave, and they started following us. This is weird. Craig Robinson was one of the guys in that dream on the other team. He was not fighting us. He was just there, and like yeah, he was just there with them, and it felt like that whole team. Yeah, that whole team was like, it felt like the hot tub time machine people. They were being like real fucking assholes to us, and they were drunk in this whole thing, and they were the ones shooting the crossbows at us. So while we were leaving, those were exactly the people, because we didn't know them, but I remember specifically Craig Robinson there. And thinking in my head the whole time, like, why the fuck are you fighting us? Like, well, what the fuck is the matter with you? Like, but I didn't say any of that because he wasn't really fighting us. He was just like there with the asshole team. Anyway, we got out the door leaving, and I remember like wanting to talk to Craig at that time and all those other people that were there. But everybody was fucking drunk and everybody was being an asshole. So we were just like, we're just gonna fucking leave. So we walked out of the door, and this is where everybody, the whole bar was leaving. because most of the people stayed there to watch the fight.